It's raining like excessively hard. It's like the whole of Michigan is crying over my departure. I can't get through that with a straight face, but I do feel pretty emotional, honestly. I've been home at my parents' house in Michigan for about 2 months. I mean, I think for legal reasons, I cannot call this home for the purposes of my visa. I have to call London home, even though honestly, right now, I'm kind of like, is it? Does it truly feel like home? Do I feel like I'm going home tomorrow, or do I feel like I'm leaving home tomorrow? What even is home anymore? I certainly don't know. And I mean, I guess like maybe that's just like the experience of anyone who's left their hometown. Whether you've done it as crazily as I have and gone to a whole other country, or you've just done it in a more like normal, reasonable way. The thing about this situation, though, is that London used to be my home. Like, I used to really think of it as my home, like, between, I don't know, when I was like 22 and 29, and I lived there kind of like what I believe to be hopefully permanently on a student visa. And then that student visa expired, and then I just couldn't switch on to any different type of visa. And I basically had to leave and rebuild my whole life back in the US. And then when I finally did, like, end up marrying a British citizen and getting, like, basically the ability to return to my life in London, it kind of didn't feel the same. I felt like I was just supposed to pick up and return to my previous reality of life in London, where actually I just like I couldn't really do it. Maybe the city hadn't changed, maybe I had changed in the time that I had to go away, but whatever it was, it hasn't felt the same. And so I find myself kind of wishing that I were going back somewhere nearer. I wish that I were maybe like that I still had a place in New York and I were just going back there where home is only a $30 Spirit flight away. And sometimes I do wonder, why did I choose this life? So anyway, I guess I'm just like in full preparing for travel mode. Ugh, which like is also making me want to cry. I know that I have to tomorrow get up super early and go to Detroit, and then fly from Detroit to Boston, and then Boston to London. And I also like hate flying, so that's going to be super fun. And also, I kind of do wonder sometimes, why did I choose to live in a place where home, real home, is like, a 7-8 hour plane ride away, whereas I could have just lived somewhere closer. Why did I do this? And I think this kind of comes back though to the reason why I do still like have a place in London, and why like when it came time for my partner and I to decide together where do we want to live, I basically said it has to be London. Where else would it be but London? Because I think there's still that cachet that I still do, I guess, derive from being the American abroad. And in so many ways, I've like constructed my whole identity around this idea of being the American abroad, the sophisticate. So yeah, if I didn't live in London, like how else would I know that I'm better than everyone else, right? The inconvenient thing is also that I really hate flying. And we're not talking like the low level nervous flyer. No, we're talking like, 6-7 hour flights spent like completely white knuckling the armrest, like as though that's going to save me. And each time I have to spend like hours and hours and hours suspended, 40,000 feet above the ground in a metal tube. I can't help but wonder, what am I doing? Like, what is my purpose in all of this? Anyway, I got back to London, and while I was on my way home, I kept looking out the window at the places I passed, and I kept recognizing that I have memories of these places, but I managed to convince myself that none of these memories were actually my own. I convinced myself that these years and years of memories of London somehow belonged to someone else. Yeah, it was probably just sleep deprivation, but I thought coming back to the UK, I wouldn't have to deal with heat at all anymore. Like, I heard that we were entering into a new ice age. Like, what happened to that? This is terrible. If you're in London, you almost definitely know what day I'm doing this because like we're having one, whatever, 90-degree day, 31 degrees Celsius day in the foreseeable future, and it's that day, of course, because I have to do this on that day because I've been traveling and I haven't been able to get anything else done, and I haven't been able to film, and I haven't been able to do anything. I'm like, but when I came back, the question of purpose, like my purpose, life purpose, was still bothering me. Even after I recovered from jet lag, whatever, I still haven't recovered from jet lag. What am I talking about? But even after I like semi recovered from jet lag, even after I took a nap, let's say, and somewhat got settled in, I was still troubled by this idea of what is my purpose? What is my purpose being here in London? Because I think when I'd lived in London in the past, I always kind of had a clear purpose, like a literal statement of purpose. Like I literally had provided a statement of purpose for my grad school applications, and that was my purpose. Whereas now, I guess, like in the eyes of the UK government, my purpose is to be a spouse, but like I don't know what like day-to-day activities that's supposed to come with. But I keep asking myself, why do I even need a sense of purpose to be in a place? Like, why can't I just simply exist? And I almost wonder if this idea of needing a sense of purpose really is like somehow particular to the experience, maybe of moving abroad, or maybe just like living long term, semi permanently in a place where you were not born and did not grow up, and that you actively had to choose. And because you actively chose it, you kind of have to like keep justifying your presence there. And it seems like when I'm back in Michigan, for example, I don't really feel the need to explain to people why I'm there because, like, I'm just there. I'm there because I'm from there. I'm there because no one can possibly tell me I can't be there. I'm there because I have a place to stay no matter what. Like, that's why I'm there. Where here, it's a little different and it gets a little more confusing, and I have to do a lot more self justification. And it just creates like a lot of pressure, this idea of a sense of purpose. It's like this idea that I always have to be driving myself forward, that I always have to be achieving something. I'm supposed to be living my dream life and also probably in the process living someone else's dream. I'm supposed to live the London dream, the American and London dream. But the thing is, most of the time, like actually, my days are pretty mundane. And sometimes I do lovely things here. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting it right. Go to pubs and take trains places and go to parks and go on walks. And it feels like it's completely aligning, finally, with the adventure that London is supposed to promise. But then these are only the experiences of the weekends, and then the weekends end, and life kind of starts to feel shapeless again. And I'm in London, but I'm working remotely, so it doesn't feel like London. I feel like I'm missing out on the whole experience of what London is supposed to be, just sitting in coffee shops or in my flat hunched over my computer. And I think, well, is this the living abroad dream that I was supposed to be living out? And after all this turmoil and torment, I think I come to the unsatisfactory conclusion that it all has nothing at all to do with London itself, and it has everything, in fact, to do with me and the way I've been approaching life and the way I've just experienced the last several years. Maybe it's exacerbated by living abroad, sure, or living in London or living in a big city, because I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something exceptional to like live up to my past self's dreams or something, but like ultimately, yeah, like I'm kind of not. And I think maybe coming back and like going away and coming back has like, it makes me face up to the fact that my life over the past few years has not really maybe been in alignment with what I want it to be, and I haven't been in alignment really with what I want to do. And when I like have these locational shifts, it's just like it's what comes up. It just makes me fully face up to the fact that the state of my life in the past few years like just has been kind of not what I'm looking for. And I mean, why do you think? What was the origin of that? I have some guesses, but like, let's not name it because I don't want to talk about it. But like, I think we all know like what happened a few years ago that kind of like shifted everything. And now, like, I feel like nothing has really completely come back. And like, maybe I just am still just like living in this reality where I feel kind of like isolated and bored and I'm not really doing a lot and I can't seem to break out of that. But like, whatever it is, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a downer. And I think the only way I can like justify this downer is by kind of just saying, well, I mean, this is just a journal entry effectively. Like, this isn't some inspirational thing. This isn't a work of art. This is just an experience. This is just where I've been the past few days. And I also keep thinking of those memories of my past life in London, like those memories where I thought they weren't really my memories. And I think what it is, and I think like the way I'd analyze the situation is like as I was looking back and idealizing this past time and thinking I had all this purpose, I think I was actually mistaking purpose for more like agency. And like what I mean by agency is like a sense of control over my life and the direction of my life, and how I very much felt like every action I made at that time was like kind of in service of something. Like I didn't necessarily know exactly where I wanted to go or exactly where I wanted to end up. Like I feel like that's like a fallacy of hindsight or something, but I think I did feel a lot of control. Like I think I felt that I could shape my days the way I wanted to. Felt like I had a little more autonomy in like the work I did and how I did it and where I did it and when I did it. And like I feel like a lot of that has kind of like faded over the last few years. And I just kind of feel like, yeah, I like lost control over my own destiny to an extent, and like really still I'm like trying to get it back, but haven't quite gotten there yet. And every time I come back and I think about the fact that I don't really completely have control over my destiny, that I still am not really sure what I'm doing in life, and I still am like subject to immigration pressures and fear that maybe this isn't forever. Like maybe it looks like forever, but once again, it won't be. Like that's what scares me about coming back to London. I think that's where all of the conflicting feelings of being here, like that's where they stem from. It's like it's all from insecurity. It is from lack of trust. It's just that. But anyway, I'm still glad I did this, I guess, little documentation experiment. Just it's a record of a time, if nothing else. Like I think it's kind of taught me that you can't really run from your problems. Like everyone knows that and everyone tells you that, but I guess like I've seen that it's really true. Like by going away to Michigan for a few months, like yes, I had a nice time and yes, it was so good to see family. But I think yeah, it just showed that it is kind of one of those the grass is always greener situations. Like I was just, looking at my life there and thinking, "Oh, well, it could be perfect if I just maybe lived at home or lived closer to home." But, maybe it's also like I have unfinished business to resolve with London and the UK, and maybe that's part of the purpose of me being here. I don't know. But I think like what I have realized is that it's okay to come back. I'm okay with being back. I hope this will be a time where I can maybe look for more alignment in what I want and what I do day to day. And maybe this is just the start of a great time. Who knows?